Budget order review and upgrades. Today is a little bit different. I thought I'd try something different, something I've been meaning to do for a little while. Is obviously the idea of the channel is to get some budget audio as cheap as possible. It still sounds pretty good, so I'm always looking about different ways of maybe doing this. And I remember back, quite a few years ago now, I used to have a Yamaha DSP amplifier. I think it was the 1000 or the A1, something like that. I can't remember the actual thing. It was about £1,000 back then, which was quite a bit of money. It was only Dolby Pro Logic, just had the two left and right, centre, two rear channels, which was in mono, and the subwoofer output. And you know, I used to watch Top Gun and films like that. God knows how many times I watched Top Gun with the planes flying one side of the room to the other, the lift doors shutting and all that, all them kind of things. And you know, it's quite a bassy and rumbling kind of sound as well. Got you right into the action, so to speak, you know, being at the cinema, that kind of thing. And yeah, I used to enjoy that, but things changed, the room set up changed, and you get married and all different things, and things don't happen as you want them to, audio wise, so you have to kind of scale down or move things about, all that kind of thing. So that had to go, and it's something I miss, I must admit, I do miss that. And we'll be moving soon, hopefully, so hopefully to get a kind of proper setup in the room and go back to that, get a projector maybe, or a bigger TV, and go into that a little bit more. But this channel is about audio at the moment, so I thought I'd get one of these, because these go for pretty much, you know, rock bottom prices, so to speak. So I thought I'd just see how these actually sounded now, you know what I mean, kind of compare it to you know, things I've been doing recently with different receivers and amplifiers. And I can't remember exactly how that Yamaha used to sound. Obviously it's quite a few years ago now, so I thought I'll have a little tinker around, see what I can buy at a reasonable price, and see how it actually pans out and how it actually sounds. And in them doing that, I've come across a few things here. First of all, I want to talk about when you come to buy items off of eBay, second-hand shops and all that, is just to look out for common faults with them items. You know, put in the Google, if you're buying something 10 or 15 years old, or even a few years old, come to that. Sometimes over just a short period of time, some of these items develop common faults. They could be anywhere, you know, they could just shut down, the power supply could go, there could be display problems, all that kind of thing. Maybe just worth a little search before you actually go and buy the unit, especially if you're paying top money for it. You know, anything, you know, that can go wrong with it, or it's, you know, common. You know, how much would it cost you to get repaired, all that kind of thing. Is it repairable, and you know, what kind of luck people have been having sorting their problems out. So it's like maybe just to bear in mind with anything, you know, any amplifier, turntable, tuner, anything like that, you know, anything to do with the audio thing, just common faults really, just a little search. Now, I did buy a Yamaha unit, as I had that Yamaha amplifier back then, the A1000 I think it was. I couldn't find that one at a reasonable price, so I kind of bought one a few notches down, but I'll put that aside for the time being, because I've also picked up this Arcam AVR 300. The reason I picked this one up, it was fairly local to me, it was fairly cheap, and it had a problem. It has a common fault. So I thought, that's great. It's going to kind of like do three things here. I'm going to have like something that's local I can go and pick up, something that's got a fault with it as well that I may be able to mend, and something that's cheap. And you know, going by the reviews, sounded like it sounded pretty good. So I thought, let's get that. We'll give it a little test and give my faults on it. So later on in the video, it'll be quite a long one, this one I think, but if you're interested in anything like this, it may be worth sticking around, or if you've got this, sticking around to the final bit at the end, which is going to tell you the faults that's with this, and now they can be repaired hopefully at a later date. Okay, so really going to skim the surface with this, to be honest with you. It's just going to be about the audio, nothing about the visual effects. Now the reason these go cheap is because they've got no HDMI inputs or outputs. These just really rely on phono leads, you know what I mean, the old RCA. You've got a composite for the video. You've got component for the video, you've got Super VHS lead for the video, and that's as far as it goes. So connecting up to a modern day TV, you're not going to get the best picture by any means. The only way of doing that really is to connect the HDMI socket from your like DVD player, Blu-ray player, directly into your TV, and taking the audio out from your Blu-ray player or your TV into this to get the 7.1 if you wanted to go that far. But today, like I say, we're just going to concentrate on connecting this up just to a CD player, and just to a CD player, and that is it. Obviously you could do a tape with it, it would take a normal tape. The only thing it won't take is a turntable, but it will take a turntable either if you get a turntable, it's got its own preamp already built into it, so it's got a line level out, so to speak, that would plug directly into here, and you can plug that into tape in an auxiliary socket, something like that. Or if you've got a record player and got its own little line level, separate little line level amplifier, something like that, then plug it into here. You'll be able to do it that way. So it's still a possibility of plugging the turntable into this, but I haven't done that. I've just solely concentrated on a CD. Now the CD will connect up in two ways. You can connect it up through the RCA, the normal red and white cable, so to speak, or the coax for the digital output, because this has got a digital input. This has got its own built-in digital to analog converter. Now, the 5,000 price tag I've got is, this is the best receiver for under $5,000 back in 2004. Don't forget. It was a review I picked up online, and I'll leave a link down below to that review if you want to go and have a little look at it, of some bloke who does a review for some magazine I've never heard of, I must admit, but it may be a common magazine where it come out, and he seemed to think that this was one of the best units you could get for under $5,000. Don't forget, he's talking about a general description of an audio video product, and all we're going to do today is the audio part, and he reckons that the digital to analog converter, I'm just feeding this because this gets quite warm, this not so bad, but this here, we'll talk about that later. He reckons that this digital to analog converter is a very nice one in here, and he can kind of compares it to a standalone one we would go and buy for probably $300 to $500 something back then in 2004, don't forget. So he's saying it's got a good sound. Now I haven't got any other digital to analog converters to kind of compare this to. All I can do is plug my CD into it and see how it sounds, and compare it a little bit of how it sounded through the RCA. And it did sound better through the digital analog converter, just a tad better, not vastly better, but it did sound a tad better. So for most of the review then I just stuck to the digital out. But if you've got a CD with a normal RCA, you haven't got a digital out, don't worry, this stands pretty good, or in fact very good through the normal connections. So how is the overall sound? Well, it's got a built-in tuner first of all. It's got its own built-in tuner, and it's got a fairly strong signal. Picked up everything that I normally pick up around here with a reasonable aerial, so to speak, and that come through fine. And the sound was in pretty much the same kind of tone and comparison as it is through the CD player. Kept pretty constant. So just going to kind of gloss over the tuner really. The tune was fine. We're going to go and just to the general sound of it now, if you connect this up to your CD player, etc. Now, I found this unit, just before I really start, I did forget to mention now, I've got a bi-wireable video at the top here, it's just coming up now, you may want to go and have a look at as well, just to explain the bi-wiring a little bit more. But this is bi-wireable, as most amplifiers are. If you buy a set of speakers that are bi-wireable, 2 leads back to the amplifier for each channel, and that's bi-wireable. But where this difference is a little bit different to that, this is also bi-ampable. It means that this here, and more explanation in that video, it means this here you could connect up a set of speakers left and right, but the left channel would have its own amplifier for the treble, and it would have its own amplifier for the bass or vocals bottom unit. It would have its own amplifier for each. So this would do 2 channels for one speaker and 2 channels for the other speaker, where the high frequencies would go off on one channel, and on the same separate channel but the same speaker, the low frequencies or the main vocals, all that kind of thing, the main driver would go off like that. So you're using kind of like 4 amplifiers, 2 for each speaker. Like I say, diagram at the top in that video maybe explain it a bit better. And they're rated 100 watts per channel. If you did it like that, you could set it up in that configuration to 100 watts per channel, or theoretically actually 200 watts. So you've got 100 watts for your tweeter, 100 watts for your driver in each speaker. So, and that is, but I haven't done that because I haven't got a bi-wearable pair of speakers here at the moment, I'm afraid. But when I come to mend this, hopefully I will, and I'll do that test at a later date. But that's supposed to open this up a little bit more and give it a little bit more bass. This is lacking a little bit more clarity to that bass. Going by reviews and reviews only, like I say, not a personal experience. But anyway, let's get on to the sound. Now I found this is where, I don't know where to start really. This is quite an airy sound. It's got quite a nice big sound stage. It's quite a lot of depth. It's quite airy. It's nice. It's a very, very clear sound. It's a bit emphasised between the mids, the mid vocals kind of thing, going up towards the top end. Just a little bit of emphasis more towards the top end, I would have said. Just a little bit more emphasis towards the top end there. And where it does lack here is in the bass, coming down to the bass. You could just do a bit more oomph. The bass could do a bit more clout, could be, you know, a bit more to the bass, especially. I felt like, you know, going around the kit on the drums, it could be lifted up a bit more. It could just have a bit more volume to it. It was just, it sounded nice. I just wanted a bit more of it, like you with me. It sounded nice. Just kind of listening out for it, where, you know, should be a bit more apparent, I thought. So that's where this unit kind of lacked a little bit here, is towards the bottom end. You know what I mean? The actual, it just needed a bit more oomph to it. Like I say, what I had to do, depending on speakers, the bigger the speakers, I've got some Walnut Short here, 55 TIs. I don't say they're bassy speakers, but they can, you know, give out a little bit more bass, so to speak. They sounded better on them than they did on the 35s. The bass seemed a bit more lacking, and I was tempted here to turn the bass. It's got its own separate bass for each channel, so it don't matter what channel, all through the 7 channels of this, but, you know, left and right, I could turn it up between 1 and 6 dB. That was it. It was a maximum of 6 dB. And I found on these speakers here, these 35s, I would have to have it on 6 dB, where the Walnut Short down the bottom, the others, the 55s, probably about 2 or 3 dB, just to give that bass a little bit more help there. Still not bringing it up to where I really want it. I found that if I kept on increasing it too much, it brought up the real bottom end of the bass and not the mid bass where I wanted it. So that's where it kind of brought it up using these speakers. So a little bit bass shy, but other than that, this sounds really, really nice. You know what I mean? Everything about it sounds nice. It sounds, you know, it sounds very clear. It sounds very crystal. You know, it's just, it sounds nice. It's a bit hasn't got a lot of warmth to it. Hasn't got a lot of richness to it. You know, these things are missing the warmth and the richness, but other than that, everything sounded nice. It could sound a little bit hollow sometimes, depending on the music. It's kind of a natural sounding amplifier, natural sounding speakers. They can sound a little bit hollow sometimes, a little bit thin, maybe is the word I'm looking for there as well. Can sound a little bit thin, maybe, but all in all, for what you're paying here, it sounded very nice. Like I say, this is just one thing it can do out of many other things that this receiver can do. So yeah, I definitely recommend it. You know what I mean? For what you're going to go and pay for this, it's got, like I say, 100 watts a channel. It's got, you know, just missing that little bit. You know, 100 watts a channel, just missing that little bit of oomph from the bass. But everything else sounded really nice. You know what I mean? I end up listening to this with the bass, like I say, on 4, somewhere around there, maybe 6 with these TI 35s, and that sounded nice. I could listen to it all the time, you know what I mean? It sounded nice, just a little bit lacking in going around the kit when I was expecting just a little bit more, but it sounded nice, you know what I mean? I sat back, relaxed, and enjoyed it. It filled up the room. It sounded nice, it sounded airy, it sounded open, it just sounded clear. Everything about it was nice, like, you know what I mean? And I think, like I say, this bi-ampable, it could just get a little bit more out of it as well, and bi-wireable kind of thing, you may be able to just get a little tad more out of it. But all in all, for what you're going to go and pick this up for, yeah, definitely, you know, definitely worth the money. Whether it was worth £1,300 back then, probably yes it is, because it's a complete package, so to speak, rather than the separate amplifier. But like I say, for £70 to £130, £140 here in the UK, you're going to go and get one of these. This sounds nice, and it's got tons of other stuff it can do, built-in digital analog converter as well. A nice unit and highly recommended. But now I want to give you maybe the negatives on this amplifier. Okay, so now the drawbacks of maybe getting this unit or one similar to this that come out at the same kind of time, the 350 maybe being one of them. Though the 350, I'm not too sure if it's got exactly the same problems. You know, reading on the internet, it seems to be overheating. A few of these in the range seem to do this. Some people have had a bit of luck with the 350 by putting main suppressor on it. You know, little plug thing that goes in between the plug here and your plug, little suppressor. They come in strips or a little, you know, one-on-one kind of thing. These are not expensive, £10, £15, $10, $15, but these are people saying when the fridge comes on or the light goes on or a cooker comes on or fan comes on somewhere in the house, the unit turns itself off. So it may be a different fault, because, you know, these suppressors are not going to stop anything overheating, that's for certain. So I've had this on about 20 minutes or so, something like that, while I'm setting up the camera and all that. I've had nothing, as you can see, nothing's connected. There's no speakers connected to it. The volume's on 0. And where I'm going to show you soon, these parts are really hot already, like, you know, and nothing's happening, so to speak. These do get really hot. Come to them in a minute. So what I'm going to do is just show you a top-down view of what's inside this unit. As you can see, there's quite a lot involved in here, quite a few boards standing up vertically, and the main heat sink is down the centre there, this heat sink, and this has got 2 fans underneath it. Now these fans don't usually come on. These would only come on if this is getting really, really, really hot. So the 2 fans at the bottom of the unit pretty much stay off all the time, like you with me. So if you get one of these units and you think, well, these fans ain't doing a lot, they're not supposed to come on. They only come on when this is getting red hot, like kind of thing. So would be really, really hot for them fans to come on. They're kind of like a safety precaution more than anything else, I think, there. So what we're going to do now is I'll show you this board here. This is where the this is what's causing the random shutdowns, etc. And not turning on, all that kind of things. Things going wrong with this board. As you can see, it's in the yellow box there. This is the part of the board we're going to be looking at. It's got quite a few regulators on there. Quite a few power parts are coming from this part here, going to different boards, etc. inside the unit. Now this, like I say, runs quite hot. The first thing, if you've got one of these, the AV300, I mean, it may be the same with your 350 or other models. I haven't got the inside pictures of them, but the first thing I noticed is this capacitor here laying down with the arrow on it. It was getting really, really hot, really, really hot. And the diodes, it's kind of like stuck down against 4 diodes. So what I've done, as you can see, I've just prized it away from them 4 diodes. And this will run a little bit cooler now, because them diodes generate quite a lot of heat, and with the heat the capacitor's generating as well. There's a lot of heat involved there, and obviously over a period of time this is going to dry it out. It's not going to do it any favours, let's put it that way. So prize that back and maybe run the unit as I use it here, fully open, and it's going to last a while, because I had this unit running with the lid on and it was lasting me about 40-50 minutes. It could vary a bit, like either way, 10 or 15 minutes in. It just kept on turning itself off. I've took the top off, I've moved that capacitor, and I've had it on for 3 hours or so now, testing things out, over a few days now. And it stayed on, it hasn't turned itself off then. Okay, so yeah, so that's that capacitor, like I say, bent back. We're going to take a reading of that capacitor, and as you can see, that capacitor gets it gets quite hot, that capacitor, and this is a reading with it away from the diodes. It was getting even hotter with it against the diodes, because they was eating it up as well. And here's the reading of the capacitor next door, the one that's standing up as it should do. As you can see, they're still quite warm for what it is. If we just compare this with the 4 capacitors on the main smoothing capacitors on the main power supply, as you can see, these running a lot cooler than these 2 capacitors here. That's for certain. So anyway, let's go back to the everything seems to be happening in this yellow box. So there's the yellow box again. It's all in this area, and in this area there's 28 diodes, I think, roughly. There's a picture of one of them there, arrow, but everyone that looks like that, I ain't going to put 28 arrows, but you can see them all on the board there. Some of them were slightly hidden, etc. I think it's about 28. I ain't actually counting them completely, but they get really hot. Like it is a reading from them diodes, and these get hot, these diodes, and it's probably a lot of people, and it's worth maybe replacing these with an higher ampage one. These are rated at 1 amp, maybe go up to 3 amp or something like that. I will get around hopefully to doing all that to this at some stage, and I'll come back with a video of how I took it apart and how I went about it. When I get the parts, if I get the parts, that kind of thing. It'll be further down the line, whenever I get time, etc. But maybe something I'll put aside for a while, maybe something I'll do next week. I don't know, things happen kind of thing. Okay, so yes, just take a reading of the actual transistors, the regulator transistors bolted to these heat sinks. And as you can see, these 2 heat sinks these get really hot as well. And I've been reading on the forums and that people said that the heat sinks maybe should have been a bit bigger than what they are. But I think they're still running within spec. But everything cramped in that little space there. The capacitor's getting hot, the diode's getting hot. These heat sinks getting hot. Everything getting hot down there. It's probably not doing that part of the board too many favours really. So then there's a little regulator here that hasn't got an heat sink on that I found, and as you can see, that's running fairly hot as well. Actually hotter than the other ones with the heat sink, so maybe at some stage it may be worth me while just putting there's not much room there, to be honest with you, but maybe strapping something to it, a little bit of aluminium or some kind of little heat sink, I may be able to get to it just to let it run a little bit cooler and have a little bit less heat in the area. But at the end of the day, all the parts here, the capacitors, there's quite a few capacitors on that board, obviously them 2 main ones are getting really hot. All that needs replacing, the diodes need replacing really. To keep this in tip-top condition and to keep it going, longer than what it probably is if I just left it with the lid on and carried on using it over a period of time, etc. Okay, and here's a picture now. I just took one more reading here of a picture of the overall heat coming from that board in that general area there. And as you can see, it's running quite hot. And when you run your hand, I've had it on, and it's on now. As you can see, it's on volume 0. I've only turned it on for 20 minutes while I've been setting up the camera and everything. And these 2 heat sinks, you wouldn't want to put your hand on there too long. I'm just touching it with my knuckles there, and these are running really hot. And if I go to the capacitor with the bottom of my finger, that's right, you can feel the heat coming off of that, like, you know what I mean? If you just put your hand over there, especially this way up seems to be a bit more sensitive, that side down your hand, yeah, you can feel, you know, you go over the thing, it's cool, and you can feel the heat difference just there. You can feel there's quite a lot of heat being generated from that particular area. Okay, like I say, at some stage hopefully I'm going to come back with a video of me actually repairing this and getting it back to how it should be. So that's the downside of this AVR 300. Okay, so there you have it. There's, you know, the good part of this machine, you know, how cheap it is, etc., and how good it sounds, you know, what you're getting, all the features packed in there. You know, tons I haven't even covered at all, but it's absolutely packed with features, this machine, and you know, still maybe worthwhile thinking about getting one. Like I say, you know, it's going to be the power supply bit, it's going to be the issue here. Like if you do get one, maybe you may be lucky, but there seems to be the general thing of this is, you know, the fault of this particular unit and units in that range maybe. So maybe something bearing in mind if you're thinking of getting one of these. Obviously if you can do that work yourself, or you know a mate or something who can do a little bit of work there and help you out, then that's going to be great. And I mean, you may be lucky, you may get one, even though these are getting hot and etc. It could last you years, keep it well ventilated, etc. It may last you years, you know, it's one of them things that may only last 5 minutes. Just something to maybe be a bit wary about if you're going to buy one of these. And you know, at the end of the day, I recommend this, you know what I mean, this is really highly recommended for what you're going to pay for one of these. Like I say, you're going to probably pop out, pick up one locally for £70 or £80, something like that here in the UK. You may have to, you know, if you're going to get it posted, you may pay just over £100 for one, something like that. And don't forget, you're getting a machine here that here in the UK was about £1,300. In America and places like that, I think retail for about $1,900, something like that. So you're getting a fair machine for your money. You're getting quite a few features. You're kind of future-proof here. You've got, you know, a decent 2-channel amplifier that can be bi-wireable, obviously, and bi-ampable as well. You've got digital analog converters on board. You've got so many inputs, etc. You've got, you know, a really, really good little, we'll say little, quite, you know, a good heavy, bigger unit, should I say, and that sounds really nice. You know what I mean? You know, like I say, the only maybe drawback there on the sound was I was just a little bit bass shy. That was, you know, the negative I would take out of this. But other than that, I mean, like I haven't tried it with surround speakers and a subwoofer, so you know that may just ping it up a little bit. And I haven't tried it with a bi-ampable either, with bi-wireable speakers, and apparently, you know, that just brings it up a little bit as well, so that may well help. But all in all, for the money, I think it's one of them kind of things you've got to like. Maybe one of these things I'm going to leave in the air a little bit. You know, maybe get one, and you know, if you pay £70 or £80 and it conks out in a year's time, you've had 78 quid's, you know, 70 or 80 quid's worth of enjoyment out of it, and maybe try and get someone to fix it, something like that. But you know, if you can do it yourself, then I think it's going to be highly recommended, or you can get someone to do it for you, then highly recommended. And if you can't, maybe like I say, it's a bit up in the air, make your own decision, but you're getting a really good unit for a rock bottom price here, I think. That's, you know, very versatile. Okay, so that's it. So, you know, just something a little bit different there, hopefully. Until the next video, I'll say thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon.